Hello, today we're going to talk about behavioral ecology. Behavioral ecology is a field of biology that studies behavior in an evolutionary context. When we focus in on animals, okay, it's the study of animal behaviors called ethology. Excuse me. Behavior is everything an animal does and how it does it. All right. So innate behavior is a behavior that is performed the same way by all individuals of a species. It's under strong genetic control. And an example would be like a chick obtaining food from its parents. Okay, so this would be an example of an innate behavior. It often deals with fixed action patterns, okay, which are motor responses that are triggered by some environmental stimulus. So like if a goose was laying on eggs and one of her eggs rolled out, she would reach beyond it with her bill and pull it back in. Habituation is a loss of response to a stimulus after repeated exposure that conveys little or no information. This is the simplest form of learning. Animals learn not to show characteristic response to a particular stimulus because the stimulus was shown to be unimportant during repeated encounters. So that eliminates responses to frequently occurring stimuli that have no bearing on the welfare. Okay? Imprinting is learning that is irreversible and limited to a very sensitive time period in an animal's life. The sensitive period is a period in the animal's development where it can learn certain behaviors. Okay, and that's very important. If you see like young chicks, ducklings, goslings, they will follow their mother anywhere it goes. And they will respond to whatever they see first and think that it's their mother. So imprinting is relatively quick. It occurs during a limited time, which is the critical period, and it occurs without any obvious reward. Biological function is allowing young birds to recognize close relatives to avoid attack from other birds. There are two types of movement. We have kinesis and taxis. Kinesis is a random movement in response to a stimulus. So the organism kind of goes all over the place. Taxis is a movement directed toward or away from a stimulus. So whether it's going towards the light source or a food source or something like that. Spatial learning occurs when you use landmarks to learn the spatial relationships among objects and its environment. Okay, so it's a different type of a learning. Cognitive mapping is an internal representation of the spatial relationships among objects in the environment, and that is with migration. Associative learning is behavioral change based on linking a stimulus or behavior with a reward or punishment, and this is typically trial and error learning. Social learning is learning by observing and mimicking others. Okay, so it's learning from others. This is a much greater in social species since they spend time close to each other. It's like learning the world from others, the young interacting with adults. Problem solving is a behavior that arises in response to a new situation. And you need to have cognition, the ability of an animal's nervous system to perceive, store, process, and use info gathered by sensory receptors. Foraging is a type of behavior to get food. A generalist will eat anything, where a specialist will only eat certain things. Optimal foraging behavior is an animal's feeding behavior should provide maximum energy gain with minimal energy expense and minimal risk of being eaten while foraging. Okay, mating behaviors. If you're said to be promiscuous, there's no really lasting relationships exist, and there's a lot of different mating that occurs. Monogamous are mates remain together for long periods of time. And polygamous is when an individual from one sex mating with several of others of their species. Social behavior is any kind of interaction between two or more animals, usually of the same species. We have courtship, aggression, territorial behavior, cooperation. Sometimes we see a dominant Hierarchy, and this is a ranking of individuals based on social interactions. Once it's established, the position of each individual is fixed. Altruism is pretty cool. It's the behavior that reduces an individual's fitness while increasing the fitness of others in a population. All right, so it's typically going to benefit the family. Inclusive fitness is individual success as perpetuating its genes by producing its own offspring and by helping close relatives, which is kin selection. Reciprocal altruism is altruism towards no relatives. Okay, so there is an initial cost, but if the service is repaid with interest by other members of the population, it is good. And altruism may evolve. Okay, it might be like a warning call to alert others of predators. Maybe helping to raise offspring that's not your own. Helping another individual acquire a mate. Food sharing. Those are all examples of altruism. So there is a course on behavioral ecology. Ms. Luckhart teaches that. If anyone is interested, you'll be learning about all of that and more. But if you do have any questions, let me know. I know it was a lot of definitions and so forth, but let me know tomorrow in class. Thanks.